اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على صاحب دعوة النبوية والصولة الحيدرية والعصمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والعبادة السجادية والمآثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكاذمية والحجج الردبية والجود التقوية والنقاوة النكبية والهيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية. اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه. أما بعد، فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي أنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى، إلا أنه لا نبي بعدي. صدق مولانا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
For the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
For the hastening of the reappearance of the Master of our times, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Hadith al Manzilah, or the Hadith of the Station, which is also rendered as the Hadith of the Harunic Station, is one of the most significant Hadith when it comes to theological discourse. And it's a Hadith which has great relevance when examining the role of Amir al-Mu'mineen within the religion of Islam. For this is that Hadith in which the Prophet of God, he states, Ya Ali, O Ali, أنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى إلا أنه لا نبي بعدي. The Prophet of God, he states, O Ali, you are to me as Harun was to Musa, except for there will be no prophet after me. And upon this night, as we approach the martyrdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the subject matter of tonight's majlis is a critical analysis of this narration. For oftentimes within the world today, you find that we look at information and facts, but we don't have the ability to critically analyze that it's a world of social media, it is a world of sensory overload, and this skill is a skill which is being lost within the world today. But as we go through this narration upon this night, many of us will come to the realization that although these narrations of Ahlul Bayt, they may be small, the implications and the facts that you can derive from these narrations are of great significance, both theologically and in the practical life of a human being. And this is why when I examine this hadith tonight, first I'll look at the source of this hadith, then I'll look at the context of this hadith, I'll examine whether we can derive a theological conclusion from this hadith in pertaining towards the status of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And then at the fourth level, I'll go through the Quran and examine the relationship that Harun had to Musa in order that we can understand the relationship of Amir al-Mu'mineen to Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. You find when it comes to the examination of the source of this narration, this narration is one of those narrations which has reached the stage of tawatur. Tawatur is that narration which has been narrated in so many different ways, that so many different people said that Rasulullah said this, that there is no doubt within this. That oftentimes people, they ask the proof, what is the authenticity of the Quran? One of the proofs for the authenticity of the Quran is that so many different individuals in so many different places memorize the Quran with the exact same wording. The fact that they presented the same account despite the differences in the people speaking and reciting goes to show the authenticity of the Quran. In the same way, the narrations, although we have to be more critical, for Allah has taken the protection of the Quran upon Himself. When it comes to narrations, we must be more critical. But in the same way, if a narration has been narrated from so many different sources that Rasulullah had said this, then we can be confident within the narration. As in, when you look at the number of narrators who have narrated this hadith, Hadith al Manzilah, you find an individual like Abdullah bin Mas'ud narrates Hadith al Manzilah. You find an individual like Ibn Abbas narrates Hadith al Manzilah. You find an individual like Abu Sa'id al-Khudri narrates Hadith al Manzilah. You find that a female companion, the likes of Salim, narrates Hadith al Manzilah. You find the daughter of Hamza narrates Hadith al Manzilah, and there are a number of other narrators towards this hadith, such as Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas and Umar bin Khattab. But an important discussion when it comes towards this is that in what sources is this hadith mentioned outside the sources of the school of Ahlul Bayt? That without a doubt, when it comes to Islamic discourse, those narrations which all different schools of thought accept, those narrations carry a great significance. That when you look at this hadith, you find Ahmad bin Hanbal in his Musnad, he narrates this hadith. You find Muslim in his Jami' al-Sahih narrates this hadith. You find that Tirmidhi in his Sunan narrates this hadith. And you find Ibn Majah in his Sunan narrates this hadith. That all of these different sources, they narrate this hadith. But when it comes towards lowering from the status of Ahlul Bayt, or it comes towards those hadith where people they did not like for their own personal gains, there were three ways in which they attacked these narrations. The first way, which was the easiest for them, was to deny that the narration exists. That if you have a narration in the praise of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the easiest way for the enemies of Amir al-Mu'mineen was to deny that this was even a narration of Rasulullah. The second way in which they lower from these narrations is that they weaken the narrators who narrated them. They say that although this is a narration, the people who are narrating them are not particularly authentic. But at the third level, when the first and the second are not accomplishable, you find they battle with the interpretation of the hadith. They say that this hadith does not signify what you signify and what you are saying that it signifies. Now, oftentimes when it comes to the first, if you deny that it's a hadith, this is impossible. Because so many people have said it's a hadith, like the case of Hadith al Manzilah. When it comes to the second, that if you are to weaken those people who narrate Hadith al Manzilah, you find the entire system of Islam will collapse. That if you consider a person like Ibn Abbas, a commentator of the Quran, weak. So at the third level, what occurred with Hadith al Manzilah is that they fought with the interpretation of this hadith, and that's why there were three different viewpoints that were proposed for this hadith. The first viewpoint it stated, and this was an extreme interpretation that somebody the likes of Ibn Taymiyyah he proposed. This interpretation was that this hadith does not have any virtue of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Now, how can a hadith like this not have a virtue for Amir al-Mu'mineen? I'll explain what he said and how we replied to that. The second viewpoint towards this hadith is they said that it was a virtue of Ali, but it does not prove the successorship of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And the third viewpoint towards this hadith is that it is a virtue of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and it proves the successorship of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, as I said, the first viewpoint, that this hadith has no virtue towards Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. To understand how we can counteract this, we have to understand the context of this hadith. Now, mind you, this hadith was not stated just on one occasion. That on the day of Ghadir, this hadith was stated. On the day when there was brotherhood between the Muhajirun and the Ansar, this hadith was stated. And there are a number of other occasions where this hadith was stated. But you find the famous context towards this hadith was the Battle of Tabuk. What is the Battle of Tabuk? You find the Battle of Tabuk, the reason it occurred is that after the Prophet of God, he established the Islamic State within Medina, he began to reach out towards the neighboring nations, inviting them towards Islam. You see, Islam was not just concealed within the four walls of the mosque. The Prophet of God, he made an effort to invite others towards Islam so they can see the reality of the message of Allah. For in actuality, Islam is that religion which is for all of humanity. That when you look at all of the texts, go and look at the Bible and the Torah and the different religious texts. There is no book that addresses all of humanity like the Quran does when it says, Ya ayyuhan nas. No other book besides the Quran addresses humanity in its entirety like the Quran. And you find the one who is the embodied Quran, the Prophet of God, he would invite others towards Islam. You find on one of these occasions, he sends his ambassador towards the Roman emperor. When he sends him towards the Roman emperor, you find that his ambassador is executed. That even within the world today, the execution of an ambassador is cause for war within the world today as well. This is something which is continued within the system of humanity. So you find Rasulullah, he sends 3,000 troops and the battle of Mu'tah, it occurs, the Muslims, they lose this battle. But after they lose this battle, you find the Romans, they were emboldened, they gained strength, and Rasulullah found out they were planning to take over the Arabian Peninsula. That in that context, if they had taken over the Arabian Peninsula, Islam would not have survived. So what does Rasulullah do? He takes an army of 30,000, but he leaves behind Ali ibn Abi Talib. Now this is something which was not part of the seerah of Rasulullah. As in on the day of Badr, Amir al-Mu'mineen was the hero when he kills half of the opposing army. On the day of Uhud, when others ran away, Ali ibn Abi Talib remained firm. On the day of Hunayn, when the entire army was gone, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he remained. But upon this day, Rasulullah, he does not take Amir al-Mu'mineen, he leaves him behind. You know, we are of the belief that Rasulullah had this ilm from Allah. The battle of Tabuk was that battle where no war, no fighting had occurred. When the Romans, they saw the army, they surrendered. When you go to fight, you take warriors with you. But that only battle where Amir al-Mu'mineen did not go, the only expedition, there was no fighting within that battle. But at the second level, the reason why Rasulullah, he left Amir al-Mu'mineen behind is that there was a plot of the munafiqun, the hypocrites, that they would take over Medina. Rasulullah, for the protection of the Islamic State, for the guidance of the Ummah, he left behind Amir al-Mu'mineen. But when he leaves behind the Imam, they began to spread a rumor that Rasulullah does not like Ali. So Amir al-Mu'mineen goes towards Rasulullah. He says, "O Prophet of God, what is these people are saying?" The Prophet says, "O Ali, are you not content that you are to me as Harun was to Musa, except that there will be no prophet after me?" You find this is the context of this narration. Now when a man like Ibn Taymiyyah, he says that there is no virtue for Ali ibn Abi Talib in this hadith, he says this line. He says that this is nothing special because the Prophet of God would leave behind different individuals for different battles. For example, he would leave behind Abu Dujana al-Ansari, he would leave behind Ibn Abbas. What makes Ali so special? We reply by saying from the first level that at that time, these individuals were only left behind for an administrative purpose. The context of this incident is much different. It was for the protection of the Muslim Ummah. But at the second level, we reply that why didn't Rasulullah leave a hadith for them that they were to Rasulullah as Harun was to Musa? Why is it that only when Ali is left behind, he says that you are to me as Harun was to Musa? This goes to show that this incident is not just a specific incident, it is a general incident. And we can derive a general concept of the relation of Rasulullah to Amir al-Mu'mineen from this hadith. You know, if this occasion had occurred once, maybe we could accept that it was a specific incident. But on the day of Ghadir, he says this. On the day of brotherhood, Rasulullah says this. On the day when the order it came down, that all of the doors opening towards the mosque will be closed except the door of Rasulullah and Amir al-Mu'mineen, he said this hadith as well. That, you know, within that time period, their houses would be around the mosque. And the doors would open in towards the mosque. Now the order it comes that they have to enter through the main entrance. And now when the human being has to work and exert effort, many times the human being is not happy with this. So they complain towards Rasulullah that, are you not favoring Ali when you did this? Rasulullah says, it was not my command, it was the command of Allah who ordered this. And you find a similar incident occurred in the life of Musa and Harun as well. In the life of Musa and Harun, they had built a mosque. And the same order had come that everyone should close their door except the door of Musa and Harun. So you find this hadith, it occurs on a number of occasions. You know, it's even stated that at the birth of Imam al-Hasan, Rasulullah goes to the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen. When he goes towards the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Rasulullah says, "Oh Ali, have you named this child?" Amir al-Mu'mineen replies by saying, "Oh Rasulullah, how could I have preceded you in naming this child?" At that point, Rasulullah says, "Oh Ali, what you say is correct. But how can I have preceded Allah in naming this child?" It's stated at that moment, Jibreel, he descends. Jibreel says, "Oh Rasulullah, Ali is to you as Harun was to Musa. Name this child the name of the son of Harun, Shabbar." Rasulullah replies by saying, "Oh Rasulullah," he says, "Oh Jibreel, that was in their language. We speak the Arabic language." Jibreel says that this name in Arabic is translated as Hassan, so name him Hassan. So this goes to show that there is a general aspect to this hadith. But as I mentioned, the other two viewpoints towards this hadith is that they are a virtue of Amir al-Mu'mineen. But the question is that do they prove his successorship or do they not prove his successorship? And to answer this question, I'll examine the relationship of Musa and Harun within the Holy Quran. You see, there are over 300 places in the Quran where Musa is mentioned. And why is it like this? Allah is showing this lesson that wherever the children of Israel, they fell into a trap, the ummah of Rasulullah will fall into the same traps. That if in that time period there was a Samiri who made them go astray, in the ummah of Rasulullah there will be a Samiri who makes them go astray. And if that time period there was a golden calf that they worship, in this time period, there will be a golden calf as well, but the form and the shape, it may be different. And you find the reality is this, that even the hadith of the Prophet allude towards this. The Prophet would say that everything that the children of Israel went through, my ummah will go through that. And he would say it is to the extent that if from Banu Israel, one of them fell into a mousetrap, then somebody from my ummah will fall into a mousetrap as well. So when you come towards it, there is a general aspect which comes from the Quran. But when you look at the Holy Quran, you find there are 9 maznazil and 9 virtues which Harun is given. And all 9 of these except for one can be applied to Ali ibn Abi Talib, and the one which cannot be applied towards Amir al-Mu'mineen is Nabuwa, as the hadith it states. Now let's go towards the Quran. Let's look and see what the Quran it says about Harun. When you go towards Surah Taha, chapter 20, and you look at the du'as of Musa found between verses 25 and 35, you find Musa, he says, قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي هَارُونَ أَخِي أُشْدُدْ بِهِ أَزْرِي وَأَشْرِكْهُ فِي أَمْرِي. The Prophet of God, he says, Oh Allah, expand my chest, give me strength. Make my affair easy for me. Untangle this knot from my tongue so they can understand my words. Then he says what? He says, وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي. That make a wazir, make a minister from my ahl, from my family. This verse, it shows two of the manazil that Harun was given. The first manzil is manzilatul wizara. That Harun was the wazir of Musa. That the role of the wazir is to be in spirit towards the one whom he is the minister for. You find Amir al-Mu'mineen was the minister of Rasulullah. That's why they must be in spirit and unison. And what was their unison? Rasulullah would say, I am like the sun and Ali is like the moon. Then what is the difference between the reality of the sun and the reality of the moon? The sun has its own light. The moon reflects the light of the sun. Rasulullah, when he gives this hadith, it goes to show the reality that I am that source of guidance, my ultimate manifestation as Ali ibn Abi Talib. But at the second time, at the second level, you find what? You take light from the moon when the sun is not there. In the same way, when I am not there, that light of guidance you take from Ali ibn Abi Talib. So you find this is that first status. That Harun was the wazir of Musa, Ali ibn Abi Talib is the wazir of Rasulullah. But the second status from this verse, وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي. Harun is from the ahl, from the family of Musa. You find this is the second manzil which Harun was given in relation towards Musa, manzilatul qaraba. That he was given this closeness towards Musa. And you all know the closeness of Amir al-Mu'mineen towards Rasulullah. Then after that it says, وَجَلِّ وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي هَارُونَ أَخِي. The third manzil of Harun was manzilatul uquba. That Harun was considered the brother of Musa. In the same way, you find when the Muhajirun, they go towards Medina. At that point, the Muhajirun, they gave up everything. They left their entire lives back in Mecca. You find when they go towards Medina, they don't have anything. So Rasulullah, he establishes brotherhood between them. You find he would take a similar person, make him with the brother of another. But as he was going down the list, you find none was made the brother of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ali ibn Abi Talib with tears within his eyes, he says, Oh Rasulullah, you made everyone the brother of somebody, but you have not made a brother for me. Rasulullah, he says, Oh Ali, if any of them were like you, I would have made them your brother. Then he says, Ya Ali, anta akhi fid dunya wal akhirah. That you are my brother in this world and the hereafter. You know, brotherhood is the strongest of bonds. Now you might reply to me, isn't the relation of a parent to a child stronger than brotherhood? You find there is one small difference, and that difference has a great impact. The relationship from a parent to a child, they're not on an equal level. For the child is obliged to obey his parents. But when it comes to the relationship of brotherhood, they are on the same level. You find Harun is the brother of Musa, Ali is the brother of Rasulullah. So you find that this was that next status which was given towards him, manzilatul ukhuba. He says, وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي هَارُونَ أَخِي أُشْدُدْ بِهِ أَزْرِي. The fourth manzil within the Quran and status which Harun was given in relation to Musa is manzilatul mu'azara. That you find within this verse, that Harun was considered the backbone of Musa. You know, when Musa, he went to go get the Torah from Allah, 30 days he spends up there. Allah, he extends it to 40. Within that time period, you find in the same way that at the Battle of Tabuk, Amir al-Mu'mineen stayed behind. Harun, he stayed behind to look after the affairs of Banu Israel. So you find this was the fourth status, and then he says, وَأَشْرِكْهُ فِي أَمْرِي. Make him a partner in my affairs. The fifth status is manzilatul sharaka. that you find Harun was the partner in the affairs of Musa. You know, it's stated that one day within the mosque, as Ali ibn Abi Talib was praying, a beggar comes into the mosque. As the beggar comes into the mosque, nobody is paying attention towards that beggar. At that point, Rasulullah, that beggar, he says, "Oh Allah, I am within the mosque of your Prophet. I am within your house. I am here with the followers of your Prophet, yet no one pays attention to me." It's stated Ali ibn Abi Talib, as he is in ruku, he raises his finger. The man, he comes, he takes the ring from the finger of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The hadith, they state that at the same time Rasulullah was making a dua. You want to know what the dua of Rasulullah was? Rasulullah was saying, "Oh Allah, Nabi Musa, he prayed towards you. I am your Nabi, I am your Prophet. At this moment, I am asking you, expand my chest for me. Make my affairs from me." And then he says, وَجَعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي عَلِيٌّ أَخِي. He says, make a wazir from my family, my brother Ali ibn Abi Talib. So you find from the Holy Quran, and using this hadith, we've analyzed 5 relationships that Harun had towards Musa. And you know, in this incident, the beauty of Amir al-Mu'mineen was this, that although at the same time he was taking care of his right towards Allah, he was taking care of his right towards the creation as well. That within prayer he gave away that ring. You know, in one of the battles, a man comes up towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. I narrated the incident yesterday. But in a different battle, a man, he comes up towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. The man was a munafiq, a hypocrite. He says, "Oh Ali, what is Islam?" If I ask you what is Islam, it starts a 2, 3, 4-hour discussion. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he gives a simple answer. He says, Islam is huququllah wa huququl abd. That if you want to divide Islam, it divides into 2. The rights of Allah and the right of His creation. You know, it's stated that amongst the children of Israel, amongst Banu Israel, there was a man who was praying. And he would pray in the forest for 40 years he spent praying. He didn't see anyone. He would pray by himself. One day Musa, he comes across the man. The man, he says to him that I have never seen anyone in 40 years. How did you find me? Musa says, I am Kalimullah, the one whom Allah speaks to. He says, you are Musa Kalimullah, then can you ask Allah one thing for me? Musa says, I'll ask Allah. He says that I have been praying for 40 years for forgiveness for a sin that I committed. Is there forgiveness for me? You find Musa, he asks Allah. Allah says, oh Musa, this man isn't forgiven. Imagine 40 years in the middle of the desert, in the middle by yourself, you're praying, he's not forgiven. Allah says, oh Musa, the reason he is not forgiven is because for 40 years, I have been taking care of his sustenance. I would send a bird to bring his food towards him. For 40 years, he would take my sustenance, but he would never care to see if that bird who was bringing the sustenance ate itself. That for 40 years, all he did was think of himself. Musa, he tells this incident to the man. The man says, oh Musa, speak to Allah for me one more time. Musa says, very well, what do you want me to say? The man, he says, that tell Allah that if he is going to throw me in the fire of hell, then make my existence, my wujud so big that nobody else can fit within the fire of hell. At that point, Allah reveals to Musa that this man has been forgiven. Musa says, oh Allah, why has he been forgiven? Allah says, for 40 years, he did not think about anyone but his own forgiveness. But now his thought process is so large that he is thinking of all of humanity. It is for this that I have forgiven him, O Musa. That you see, this is the teachings of the religion of Islam. And this is what Amir al-Mu'mineen exemplified. Now I mentioned 5 statuses which Harun has to Musa. The next statuses are found within chapter 19, verse number 53. When it says, وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ مِنْ رَحْمَتِنَا أَخَاءُ هَارُونَ نَبِيًّا. that we have given him from our mercy his brother Harun a prophet. Over here, the two statuses that Harun is given in relation towards Musa is manzilatu hibatillah. That Musa was a gift that Harun was a gift towards Musa. In the same way, Ali ibn Abi Talib was a gift towards Rasulullah. And the other status is the status of Nabuwa over here, which of course isn't applied towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. But I come towards the final verse of analysis. And before coming towards the musibah, and that is chapter 7, verse 142. Allah says within this verse, وَوَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلًا وَأَتْمَمْنَاهَا بِعَشْرٍ. He says, and we promised Musa 30 nights when he went to go get the Torah. And we completed it with 10 more. فَتَمَّ مِيقَاتُ رَبِّهِ 40 لَيْلًا. That in 40 nights the pact of Allah to Musa, it was completed. And then the verse it says, وَقَالَ مُوسَى لِأَخِيهِ هَارُونَ أُخْلُفْنِي فِي قَوْمِي وَأَصْلِحْ وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. He says, oh Allah, that he says at that moment, he says, that make Harun my Khalifa from amongst my people. So you find that next status is manzilatul khilafa that Amir al-Mu'mineen has as well. Then he says rectify their affairs. Then you have manzilatul muslih, that Harun was the one who would rectify the affairs of Musa. In the same way Ali would rectify the affairs of Rasulullah. And then this concludes the 9 manazil that Musa was given, that Harun was given in relation towards Musa. So you see, we took one hadith, using different sources in the Quran, we were able to derive all of these conclusions and come to the final point that we can say from this hadith that Ali ibn Abi Talib was the successor of Rasulullah. But despite all of these virtues, despite how close that Amir al-Mu'mineen would be towards Rasulullah, they didn't spare any easiness upon Amir al-Mu'mineen. That from the death of Rasulullah to the burning door upon Zahra, to that day of the 19th of Ramadan in Masjid al-Kufa. You know, I narrated yesterday that if after Ibn Muljim, la'natullah alayh, he strikes Amir al-Mu'mineen with the sword, Jibreel, he descended, he said those lines, Tahaddamat wallah arkanul huda, انفصمت والله الأروة الوثقى قد قتل ابن عم المصطفى قد قتل علي المرتضى. Jibreel, he said that the pillars of guidance, they collapsed. He said that rope connecting the heavens and the earth has been cut. Ali al-Murtada has been killed. The son of the uncle of the Prophet has been killed. You know, it's stated that after Amir al-Mu'mineen was struck, the blood began to gush from the forehead of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You know, each imam, every single imam except for our current imam, either they were poisoned or they were killed by the sword. Amir al-Mu'mineen is that imam that not only was he struck with the sword, but there was poison upon that sword. It stated that the people of Masjid al-Kufa, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Abbas, Muhammad al-Hanafiya, they gather around their father. They begin to pick their father and take him towards his house. But as they were taking the body of Amir al-Mu'mineen towards the house, Amir al-Mu'mineen could hear that there were people crying behind him. He says, oh Hassan, who are these people? Imam al-Hassan says, oh my father, they are your companions. They are crying for this incident. You find the Imam, he says, send them away. They say, oh our master, why are you sending us away? We are coming for your pain. The Imam, he says, that do you not know that my daughter Zainab bin Do you not know that my daughters Zainab and Kulthum are waiting within that house? You find after that point, it was only the sons of Amir al-Mu'mineen taking the body of the Imam after he was struck. On one side was Imam Hassan, one side was Imam Hussein, on one side was Hazrat Abbas, on one side was Muhammad al-Hanafiya. But as they came towards the door of the house, the Imam says, "Oh Abbas, let me stand at this moment." Hazrat Abbas, he says that, "Oh my father, you were struck by the sword. How can I let you stand? Let me carry you." The Imam says, "No Abbas, I know Zainab will see me at this moment. Look at Amir al-Mu'mineen, how he thinks of his daughters." You find Amir al-Mu'mineen, he enters the house. The days of the wasi of Amir al-Mu'mineen have begun. Amir al-Mu'mineen is giving his final will upon these days. You know what was the wasi of the Imam? I'll narrate it tomorrow in depth. But you know, it stated that Imam al-Hassan, he called a doctor when Amir al-Mu'mineen was upon that bed. When that doctor, he saw the Imam, he takes Imam al-Hassan outside of the house. He says that this poison which is going through the body of your father, that if all of the inhabitants of Kufa were given this poison, none of them would survive. Your father, he won't be able to survive. But he said, give him milk, for maybe it'll slow down the poison. You know, some narrations, they state, when this news went to go around Kufa, the orphans of Kufa, they would bring milk towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. But the Imam would say that, when have you known Ali to take the haqq of the orphans? Amir al-Mu'mineen, he would lay upon the bed. But as he would lay upon the bed, he would hear that there would be one person crying outside of the door. He would say, "Oh my son Hassan, go and see who it was." When Imam al-Hassan, he goes, he sees it was a companion of his father by the name of Asbagh. Asbagh was crying at the door of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam al-Hassan says, "Why are you crying?" He says, "I want to see my master one final time." You find the permission, it comes. Asbagh, he enters the house. The Imam says, "Oh Asbagh, why are you crying? Do you not know that I'm going towards heaven?" Asbagh, he says, "I'm not crying for this fact. I'm crying from the separation we will experience from you." The Imam, he looks towards Asbagh. You know what Asbagh, he narrates? He says the face of the Imam had become so pale that he couldn't tell where that cloth on the forehead of the Imam stopped and it started. I've left all the musibah. I'll narrate it tomorrow. Amir al-Mu'mineen is in his final moments. He says that, "I see my brother Rasulullah." He says to his son Hassan, he says, "Oh Hassan, send one janazah in the direction of Basra. Send one janazah in the direction of Medina. Send one janazah in the direction of Makkah. Only you and Hussein will pick up my janazah. But as you pick up my body, it'll be guided on its own. For Allah will send Jibreel and Mikael." I say, "Oh my master, at least your kafan, at least your body, it was picked up. Imam Hassan was there. Imam Hussein was there. But look, upon the 13th of Muharram, the bodies were scattered on the plains of Karbala. Zainul Abidin, he would go towards the bodies. Banu Asad, they would say, 'Oh captive, what do we do with these bodies?' The Imam would say, 'Then make one grave for the companions and bury them there.' Then they would make one grave for Habib ibn Madahir. After that they would say, 'Oh captive, there is a body by the Furat. When we pick up one side of the body, the other side it falls down. When we pick up the other side of the body, the other side it falls down.' The Imam, he says, 'That is the body of my uncle Abbas. I'll bury After that, there was one final body. You know which body that was. The Imam, he goes to the body of his father. He falls at the body of his father. The narrations, they state that Imam Zainul Abidin, he puts his abba on the ground. He collects the pieces of his father. He says, Banu Asad, step back, for only a Masoom can bury a Masoom. He looks towards Medina. He says, oh my grandfather Rasulullah, adrikni. He buries his father within the ground. After that, it's stated that Banu Asad, they come. They say, oh captive, there is a body of a youth. What do we do with this body? The Imam says, this is the body of my brother Ali Akbar. Bury him by the feet of his father. As they begin to close the grave of Sayyid al-Shuhada, a call, it comes from the body of the Imam. The baby, the baby. The Imam Zainul Abidin, he says, where is the body of the 6-month baby? He puts Ali Asghar on the chest of his father. He closes the grave. He writes, Hada qabru Abi Abdullah alladhi qutila gharib. Watch. Matam Hussein.